I am surrounded, yet I feel alone. I laugh, but no one hears the ache underneath. Loneliness doesn't always look like a person sitting alone in the dark. Sometimes, it wears a smile. It goes to work, shows up for dinner, replies with, "I'm fine," and yet deep down, it feels empty. You can be in a crowd and still feel like a ghost. You can be loved by many, but not known by anyone. What makes loneliness so painful is not the absence of people, but the absence of connection. And that's what this story is about. This journey is for the brokenhearted. For the strong ones who keep going but feel like no one sees their pain. This is for the silent battles. For the people who feel like their presence wouldn't be missed if they disappeared. You are not alone in feeling alone. Loneliness often begins in childhood, not because we were alone, but because we weren't emotionally held. Some of us had parents who loved us, but never truly saw us. Some grew up in homes full of rules, noise, duties, but no room for softness, no space for emotion. So what did we do? We learned to perform. To smile when we were sad. To help others before helping ourselves. To shrink our feelings to survive. And now, as adults, we feel isolated, not because we don't have people, but because we don't know how to be ourselves around them. Loneliness is often the echo of a childhood where love had conditions. We live in a world where vulnerability is seen as weakness. So we wear masks. The happy mask. The strong mask. The "I've got it all together" mask. We smile in photos. We say we're busy. We fill our calendars and phones, but inside, we're quietly breaking. The problem with masks is, no one can love the real us if we never show them the real us. Loneliness isn't always being unloved, sometimes, it's being loved for a version of us that isn't real. And that is the loneliest feeling of all. There was a time you reached out. You texted first. You asked people how they were doing. You tried to keep connections alive. But slowly, you stopped. Maybe they didn't reply. Maybe they didn't care as much as you did. Maybe you got tired of being the only one trying. And now, you wait. You wonder who'll notice your silence. You scroll, but you don't message. You crave connection, but you fear rejection. And the distance grows. We live in the most connected era, yet we've never felt more disconnected. We scroll endlessly. We like posts. We reply with emojis. But when was the last time you had a deep, soul-level conversation? Social media gives us the illusion of friendship, but without depth. We're hypervisible, but emotionally invisible. And the more we scroll, the more we compare. Everyone looks happier, more loved, more successful. And we feel smaller. More invisible. We are connected, but not seen. Why don't we open up? Because we've been hurt before. Because the last time we were real, someone mocked us, judged us, or walked away. So we build walls. We keep it all inside. But emotional walls don't just keep pain out, they also keep love out. We become afraid of our own truth. Afraid that if people saw the real us, they'd leave. So we pretend. And the pretending becomes our prison. Loneliness whispers lies into our minds. You're not important. No one really cares. You're too much, or not enough. And we start believing them. Our self-talk becomes toxic. We begin to isolate not because others pushed us away, but because we pushed ourselves into silence. And once the mind convinces the heart that it is unlovable, even love starts to feel threatening. You're hurting, but the world doesn't stop. People continue with their lives. Birthdays, celebrations, stories. And smiles, while you're stuck in a fog of sadness. And it hurts. You want someone to notice. Someone to say, "Are you okay?" and truly mean it. But no one does. So you disappear even more. Not physically, but emotionally. You show up with a shell, not a soul. And the worst part? No one notices. One day, the weight becomes too much. You cry in a room no one knows you're crying in. You wonder if your absence would even matter. You begin to think, what's the point? This is the darkest moment of loneliness, when you feel like even God has gone silent. But this chapter is not the end. It's a pause before the rebuild. It's the stillness before the storm breaks. It's the silence that asks the biggest question. Will you give up, or will you reach for the light again? Even in your loneliest night, something inside whispers, hold on. That whisper is hope. Hope doesn't shout. It doesn't fix everything overnight. But it stays, quietly, patiently, waiting for you to notice it. You pick up a book. You listen to a song. You hear someone else's story. And for the first time, you feel less alone. That's the beginning of healing. Not dramatic. Not loud. Just one small spark, that says, maybe I'm not as alone as I thought. True healing requires grieving. Grieving the friendships that faded. The love you never received. The moments you were invisible. Cry. Write. Scream into a pillow. Don't rush it. Feel it all. Because only when you let go of what hurt you can you make space for what can heal you. Pain leaves the body through attention, not avoidance. Not all relationships are created equal. In your healing journey, you'll begin to notice the difference between people who drain you versus those who nourish you. Conversations that leave you empty versus those that fill your soul. People who love your truth versus people who love your silence. Start choosing quality over quantity. Let go of shallow ties to make room for deeper ones. You deserve real connection. Don't settle for less. As you heal, something beautiful happens. You become a light for others still in the dark. You start listening with empathy. Reaching out first. Noticing the quiet ones. Because now, you know what loneliness feels like. And your healing becomes someone else's hope. You don't need to be perfect, just present. You become proof that healing is possible. There will still be lonely days. But they no longer define you. Because now you understand. Loneliness isn't shameful. It's not a sign of failure. It's just a signal, a reminder to return to connection. Just like winter, loneliness comes and goes. But spring always returns. And so will your joy. Your friendships. Your sense of belonging. You've come so far. From silence to voice. From numbness to emotion. From isolation to connection. And now, even when you sit alone, you know you are held. By your own strength, by your healing, by something greater. Whether you call it God, the universe, love, or life, know this. You were never forgotten. You were never truly alone. You were simply being prepared to rise. So today, breathe deeply. Open your heart. Reach out. And say, I belong here. I matter. I am love, and I am loved. To everyone who has ever felt invisible, forgotten, or unloved, this is your reminder. You are not broken. You are not alone. You are human. And in your loneliness, you discovered your deepest strength. The courage to keep going, even when the world felt cold. Now go, not to fix yourself, but to find yourself again. Connection is waiting. Hope is real. And your story is just beginning. Healing begins not when others show up, but when you admit the truth to yourself. I am lonely. And I don't want to be. This may seem small, but it's powerful. Because the moment you acknowledge your loneliness without shame, you give yourself permission to seek connection. You stop pretending. You stop numbing. You stop hiding. You finally begin to speak your truth, even if it's just to yourself. Loneliness often stems from not feeling safe. With others, or even with ourselves. So healing starts by becoming your own safe space. Speak gently to yourself. Sit with your feelings instead of running from them. Write to the little version of you who was never held enough. Say, I see you. I hear you. I am here for you. You become the person you've always needed. And that changes everything. Connection doesn't need to be huge. Sometimes, it's just one honest message. Hey, I've been struggling lately. Or, I miss talking to you. And yes, it's terrifying. Yes, your hands might shake. But vulnerability is the door to real connection. And even if one person responds with warmth, it starts to heal the years of silence. Don't wait for the perfect friend. Reach for the real one. Healing doesn't always arrive in big waves. Sometimes, it shows up in a warm cup of tea you made for yourself. The sunlight on your face through the window. A stranger holding the door and smiling. When you start paying attention to these tiny human moments, moments that ask for nothing but presence, you begin to feel part of life again. Loneliness shrinks when presence grows. Loneliness often disconnects us not just from others, but from ourselves. We forget what we love. We forget what makes us feel alive. So now, it's time to return to soul care. Pick up the paintbrush again. Take that long walk under the stars. Dance to your favorite song alone in your room. Do the thing your soul has been asking you for. You're not just filling time. You're returning to yourself.